Hi, welcome to Biohacking with Brittany, a podcast focused on holistic health, nutrition, biohacking, and more. I'm your host, Brittany Ford, registered holistic nutritionist and self-proclaimed biohacker. During the last 10 years, I've focused on healing my gut and hormonal issues through lifestyle changes, nutrition, and of course, biohacks. And now I teach others to do the same. I'm so excited you're joining me today, so let's dive right in. Great. So I am so excited for today's episode. I have John Woerner on the podcast with me from Swolistic Living, which I was just telling him how much I love the name of that business.
What's up, guys? How are you?
So we met on social media as you do, and I think through like TikTok, it actually might have been first, and then Instagram. But I love what John does because he really focuses on fitness and bodybuilding and exercise. And I've learned so much from his posts because they're so informative. And as everyone knows, fitness is definitely not my area of expertise. So the way that he explains things is just so clear cut and really motivating. So I'm so excited to have you on the show.
I really appreciate the intro, and I'm excited to be on the show. Thank you
Yeah,
very
no
much,
worries.
Brittany.
So I would love to start with your personal health journey before we get into Swolistic Living and kind of like
Cool.
what got you started and how did you get to where you are today?
Okay, so I was always into fitness, and I probably started lifting. My first introduction to formal weightlifting was going into freshman year of high school, just like summer football weightlifting kind of camps at my high school, and it was very rudimentary discussion. Back then, it was pre-workout protein shakes, maxing out. It was stupid stuff that I was doing, and but I still liked it. I did it while throughout high school and all that. And when I got to college, my sophomore year of college, I had a seizure, and after that seizure, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I spent the next 3 years kind of completely turning my life around, complete 180. I started studying neuroscience, started really delving into physiology, biology, biohacking, really kind of reinvigorating my passion for weightlifting and just overall living as fulfilling and healthy as life, fulfilling and healthy as a life as I possibly can. So right now I'm teaching people. I have online clients, personal in-person clients on personal training, and I'm a holistic health coach. And I've been starting up this Swolistic Living podcast like Brittany was talking about, which is how we got in touch. But that's it in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
Yeah. So I would love for you to dive a bit deeper into Lyme disease for everybody who's listening who doesn't necessarily know what that is or how it happens. Could you just
Okay,
kind of explain it a bit more?
sure. So Lyme disease is one of the greatest mysteries of mainstream medicine today. It's really common on the East Coast, so I'm not sure where a lot of your listeners are from, but on the East Coast of the United States, it originated in Lyme, Connecticut. So it's a bacteria, it's a spirochete bacteria, uh, and there's a lot of theories of how it came to be, but it spread around to a bunch of different states on the East Coast, and you get infected via a tick bite. So the typical standard presentation where you might get Lyme disease would be you get a tick bite and then you get a bullseye rash, and you typically see like someone complaining of like a achy shoulder or joint pain, something like that. But really, that's only like 30% of cases, and the symptoms range from all sorts of stuff. So for me, God knows when I had Lyme because I've always been an outdoors kind of guy. I was in Boy Scouts when I was a kid, Cub Scouts for as long as I can remember, and I was camping and spending a lot of time in the woods when I was younger. So I could have been bit by a tick whenever, and I could have had a bullseye rash and just not noticed it, or I could not have had it. But I was always pretty healthy, and the symptoms that may or may not have been, Lyme disease behind the scenes that I was suffering, when I had it as a kid, when it was undetected, was I herniated a disc in my back in high school, which is something that you don't see very often, period. If anything, it's in older people. I herniated a disc and I tore my labrum. And like I had bad form, but like it wasn't that bad. Like it shouldn't have been I shouldn't have had to deal with that in high school. And then when I slipped up in college a little bit, as people tend to do in college, I started to kind of party a little bit more, not take my health as seriously, wasn't sleeping as much. I was taking Adderall, which I was prescribed, and it wasn't a good idea for sure for me. Then that seizure came, and I found out officially that I had Lyme, but I don't know when I got it. So it's a complicated thing for
Yeah.
sure.
I think what's interesting is I've heard of Lyme before, but it really it really became more mainstream, I think, when Justin Bieber came out about having it, which is like I know you
Yeah,
probably like I don't know how you feel about that, but
I was actually pretty
yeah.
happy about that.
Yeah. And I think it's awesome when
Uh,
like people like that who have such big influence are open about these types of health issues because it really like takes the stigma away from them. Um so yeah.
Yeah, Justin Bieber. I watched a video of him visiting with Dr.
Mhm.
Daniel Amen, and he's a really like amazing psychiatrist who is on the forefront of some of the alternative kind of medical imaging. He does this thing called a SPECT scan, an Amen SPECT scan, and I watched this video of Justin Bieber getting his brain scanned, and I saw his brain scan. I was thinking, and I had the same exact procedure done to me. And the initial doctor who had diagnosed me with Lyme disease was trained as kind of Daniel Heyman's right hand man or right hand woman in this case. So it's absolutely insane to see that kind of go full
Mhm.
circle and just to see how much of an impact these two doctors are making in not just my life, but the lives of
Right.
so many people.
So is Lyme disease like if you have it, do you have it for the rest of your life type of idea?
Uh, the honest answer to that question is I don't know, and I don't think
Okay.
anybody really knows. I think, and my doctor thinks that he's completely eliminated all spirochete bacteria from my body, so I no longer have Lyme disease,
Mhm.
according to him. But the testing that he's doing is that I heard you mention this testing on the previous podcast here is that live blood cell
Mhm.
analysis and some other non FDA approved testing. So it's not like diagnostic enough to say that I straight up no longer have
Right.
Lyme
Yeah, of
disease.
course. And how are your symptoms right now with it?
Right now, I feel
Cool.
awesome. Right now, so my main symptoms after my seizure were I had pretty crippling insomnia, anxiety, irritability, and brain fog to the point where like I was leaving things in the oven. Uh, Things were so difficult
Mm.
for me to do. I felt like like just getting through the basic, like I could do nothing all day and be exhausted and feel like I spent all day working, like at my worst. And now I wake up every day, I have energy, I work out, I feel awesome, I go to sleep without any medications, uh, and so I consider myself
Yeah.
healed.
Yeah.
I don't know by what standard
Yeah.
medicine would, but
Yeah,
I'm doing well.
I think that's awesome and I think that's like all really that matters is that if your blood work is showing that it's good and you're feeling good in multiple ways and for a long period of time afterwards, I think that's super important. And honestly, like that's all you can do. It sounds like you've done a lot too. So, in terms of like your healing process from it, what was the most transformational biohack that really helped you in this situation?
So when it comes to something like Lyme disease, there's only so much that you I always say that you need to take
Mhm.
responsibility for your health, but I don't mean that you shouldn't go to a doctor and you shouldn't uh, seek out people that are smarter than you and know more than you in particular areas. In Lyme disease, there's no, I mean, when I first got Lyme disease, I didn't know what Lyme disease was. So clearly, I was going to have to seek out professional help. And uh, I went to a plethora of what they call themselves Lyme literate medical physicians. So mainstream medicine doesn't think chronic Lyme disease is a thing, and they think you treat it with antibiotics for the typical course of Z-Pak or whatever, or it's Doxy that they treat it with, um, and then it's gone. And the doctors that are starting to notice that that's not the case with Lyme disease kind of broke out from mainstream medicine. Are starting their own private practices and calling themselves Lyme literate medical physicians and treating this chronic Lyme. So all of them have different approaches to how to heal this disease. And after kind of going to a couple of them and trying different things. I was on 4 different antibiotics for about a year, just absolutely destroying my gut. I tried so many things. Most of them did more harm than good. But, throughout that time, I was fixing my diet. I was incorporating the lifestyle techniques, and those were overall just making me more and more healthy, so that when the time did come that I found the right treatment and the right doctor, I was able to heal. So when that happened, this was about last year. I was introduced to a doctor in Maryland who had Lyme disease, got fed up with his mainstream practice and how mainstream medicine was treating Lyme disease, and went to Germany, paid a ton of money to heal his own Lyme disease, doing all these alternative treatments and things, came back and was like, this works so well, I have to do it to other people. So uh, I went to him and I was like expecting him to sit me down and be like, all right, here's your protocol for the next 6 months. It's going to be a long process, but the next 2 or 3 years, you'll probably be symptom free. He was like, give me 2 weeks. I was like, holy shit, no way. uh, and he said, we're going to do a couple hydrogen peroxide IVs. It's very, like, obviously a very low concentration of hydrogen peroxide. So this is what they used to use before antibiotics to kill pathogens. So he did a couple of those. I didn't really feel much. And they did something called UV blood irradiation. So he took a syringe of my blood out of my arm, and he put it in a little IV bag, and he ran that IV bag through this contraption on the table that was shining UV light on my blood as it passed through. And what this was doing was this was killing a bunch of stuff in my blood. And then he putting that blood back into me. It's kind of like a mass vaccine. And that may raise a lot of eyebrows, and it rightfully should. Afterwards, I think it really turned my immune system on high alert, maybe hypersensitive to things. And it was kind of just like a slap in the ass to my immune system. And after that, I felt terrible for like a couple of days. They call this a Herxheimer's reaction when you're detoxing from Lyme disease. And then I felt amazing afterwards. I had a couple residual symptoms, and that was because of mold and some other things, but that was really the main thing. After that, it was like all uphill. It
That's
was mind
awesome.
blowing.
Wow. It's pretty crazy how, yeah, just different treatments and different doctors are just, or healthcare practitioners can really be the answer that you're looking for, and you don't really know until you try, right? And that's what makes it
Mm-hmm.
difficult, and that's what I see with my clients too. Some of them have done so much for their specific health concern that they have, that they kind of get to this point where they don't know what else to do, and then you turn to other things, right? So you turn to IV therapy, like you're talking about, or different alternative methods that can be really helpful. So I'm so happy for you. Like, I'm glad that you really were able to like pivot and make something of it and heal yourself.
Yeah, I really appreciated it. It was without a doubt the hardest thing I've had to do, but I wouldn't be anywhere close to the man I am today or the person I am today if I hadn't gone
Yeah.
through it, for sure.
Yeah,
So I'm grateful.
absolutely. So afterwards, you like, obviously you're so big into fitness and bodybuilding and whatnot.
Mhm.
So what kind of like, what was
So
that
yeah,
transition there?
uh, like I said, my main symptoms were
Hmm.
neurological and insomnia and all that, right? So when I first had my seizure, I was thrown on a bunch of meds, like antidepressants to
Hmm.
help me sleep. And, it's just the standard of care. I mean, someone's got insomnia, it's better to medicate them and have them sleep than to not medicate them and have them stay awake and go crazy. And I still think that was a good call. But the thing is, medications do all sorts of stuff, especially when you're talking like
Right.
psychiatric medications. You bind one receptor, maybe they increase in concentration or start making less of this and that, and start. Our biochemistry is really complex, and the hard part for me was once I started to get healthier, I had to peel back all these psychiatric medications that I was on, and it was a slow process. And uh, obviously, working with my psychiatrist to put me on these medications, um, I was peeling them back, and my sleep would get bad for a day, and then I'd recover, eventually I got off the medications and kind of was weaning onto supplements. But during that process, there were times I got depressed because, as you would, getting
Yep.
off of antidepressants. Uh, Working out, I found so much solace in working out. I really started to fall in love with it again. And like I said, I was into it as a kid, but I was hurt, and I had all these joint problems, and I'd gone to physical therapy. I actually had surgery on my shoulder, and with the Lyme disease, with the seizure, in the depression, I just was kind of feeling like crap, and physically, mentally, everything. And I was like, enough is enough. And I remember the moment, and I was that day. I went to the gym. I drove to the gym. I still, hadn't really fully committed to like this is it. I'm no longer going to be depressed. I'm kind of like gonna just work my way out of this. It took me like 30 minutes into the workout to say, all right, like it's time. And I kept going to the gym every single day after that for that. This was leading into last summer, and got in insane shape last summer, out of nowhere, and then kept riding that train throughout this last school year and into where we are now. So yeah, it's fitness is awesome, and fitness is there's nothing in the world that's going to make me feel
Right.
better than working out. That's
Right.
how I feel about it. And as much as I like the health stuff, it's
Yeah.
always going to be a part of me.
Yeah. No, that's like where your passions lie, and it makes sense. So, what does your current fitness routine look like right now?
So whenever I get asked this question, my answer is always a lie because it changes. I don't have a routine. Like it changes every single day or every single week. And this summer, uh, I'm working part time, just to make a little bit of money and stay with some friends and get a tan, get some functional fitness. And I'm working part time as an ocean lifeguard, down in Bethany
Cool.
Beach, Delaware. And so that means that I have to do a lot of running and swimming just to be in shape for that. Because when I do work there, there's a workout in the morning that we have to do before we get in the stands. So I've been doing a lot of ocean swims, ocean runs, sprints. And when I'm in the gym strength training, which is less nowadays, uh, in the winter is probably about 4 days a week on average. Now it's probably about two. Um, it's typically a full body workout, and it's barbell movements, it's compound movements. So I'm in there, I squat, I bench, I deadlift, I shoulder press, I row, and I'm that's how I can go to the gym for an hour and a half a week and keep muscle mass on. It it sounds simple and it sounds like, but it really is just like these movements are the most effective movements per calorie per second and calorie and muscle damage per second. So why not do them? If we're trying to burn calories and build
Yeah,
muscle.
absolutely. So it's so interesting. I saw one of your posts. I don't know what I saw, but it was in the last week. It might have been on TikTok. But you were talking about compound movements, and I have been. I think it was literally on the way to on the way to the gym. I saw it, and I've been like looking to change what I'm doing, because I just haven't been very inspired with like my workouts lately. Um,
Yeah,
it
yeah, it
happens, yeah.
happens.
So and then I was like, "Okay, maybe I should take it back to the basics and start doing these compound movements." And I Googled like compound movement workout plan or something like that. And I came across, I don't know if you know of this brand or business called Strong Lifts, like 5 by 5. And yeah, so they
I
have
don't, but
Five
I
by
know a
five,
five
yeah.
by
So they
five.
have an app, and it's literally like the five movements that you just said, but you only do three. So it's a workout 3 times a week, and you do three of the compound movements on each workout, and it's 5 sets of 5 reps, and and then it like tells you how to build with the weights and everything, and it's just so like I'm loving it so much because it really takes away all of the fringe and like the crap when it comes to working out of like these very
Yeah,
specific
yeah. I mean,
workouts that like just I don't need, you know what I mean?
the more complicated people make things, the more money they can
Yeah,
charge.
yeah.
Uh, for one, and also, programs like this they're so nice. A lot. I mean, there's high intensity interval training, the Orange Theory
Mm,
stuff, there's so many
right.
different ways you can train. Then they all work. But what I really like about strength training is it's really easy to track
Uh-huh.
your progress. And it's also when you're consistently strength training and you're consistently doing some form of progressive overload, which means you're adding weight
Mhm.
or you're increasing in reps each week, you can use how well you're progressing or not progressing as a health metric. It's probably the best health metric there is. I mean, heart rate variability,
Mhm.
great thing to track. Uh, we don't have to get into that right now, but uh, other than that, the number one thing I pay attention to when talking about things that I'm doing that are improving my health or not is whether or not I'm getting
Right.
stronger. So it's just nice for me to
Yeah.
have that anchor.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm just really enjoying it because last year for about a year I was using the Sweat app, which is like for females, so you probably haven't seen it or used it. But it's a lot of like circuit training and like just so many different movements, and it just got to the point where it was like so overwhelming and too much all the time. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I I work out with a bunch of my friends that are girls, and I work out with tons of different people, and I've seen all sorts of
yeah,
apps. And a lot of times, though, like I mean, there are programs out there that work great, work awesome, but you're definitely always going to get the most bang for your buck by just getting back to the basics, learning the basics really well, and then exploring from there based on like what you want to
hmm
do,
hmm
not just looking at a program and then having to spend 30 seconds in between every single one of your sets, figuring out like the next 10 exercises you're doing,
yeah.
or getting so complicated and getting caught up in it when you could just put on some music and just relax and just go to
Yeah,
the gym.
exactly. And that's the thing too, is like I want it to be effective and I want it to work, but it doesn't need to
Hmm.
be something that I want to concentrate super hard on or not understand or have to like really think about. Like it's exactly that. It's like going to the gym and feeling good about it, or doing it at
That's awesome.
home, as a lot of people are working at home right
So
now. Yeah.
with strength training, in females in particular, a lot of them are hesitant they're like, I don't want to get too
Yeah.
big or all that. Uh, it, if first of all, 5x5, muscle is really important. All right, muscle is really, really important. And I don't necessarily think all females need to be lifting 3 days a week. I really don't. Uh, I think a full body 3 days a week works for probably a lot of females. Maybe a full body 2 days a week would work for a lot of females, as long as you're getting in the consistent movement throughout the day. Like if you're
hmm
walking, if you're taking breaks, if you're moving all of your joints through their full range of motion, uh, if you get up in the morning, you go outside and you walk, like, and you work at a standing desk, and like every now and then you do some pull-ups or something, or some squats or push-ups or whatever, and just take your joints, or some arm swings, or dance in your underwear or whatever. As long as you're moving around and you lift occasionally, you'll be healthy, I think. And when you do lift, you just have to make sure that you show up to that lift and you're working hard. That's something that a lot of people
Mm.
don't talk about as much, because it doesn't really matter what program you're doing. It really doesn't. As long as you're consistently getting into the gym, and when you're there, you're putting in effort into every single rep you do, and you're thinking about the muscles you're using, and you're really trying,
Yeah.
you're going to progress.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's a balance for people, right? A lot of females actually over exercise and over workout, and it's can be really harmful. So it's nice to like do something like a compound movement like workout once to three times a week, and be really getting the benefit from it without having to spend like hours in the gym. Um,
Exactly, and that's what's so great about like high
yeah,
intensity interval training versus banging out junk
yeah.
miles too. Like obviously
Yeah.
efficient
And
is
I
better.
definitely agree with what you're saying. Like organic movement throughout the day is something I try and talk to my clients a lot about, because if you're sitting at your desk from 9 to 5 and then you're going to a gym for an hour afterwards, it doesn't make up for you not moving for 8 hours. And the research shows that.
Like
So
it's not.
y-
Yeah.
yeah,
It's not a calorie in, calorie out
exactly.
thing. Like it's like movement is more than
hmm
burning calories, right? You have an entire lymphatic system, which is how some of your immune cells and some fat cells get around your body, and it doesn't have a pump. Your heart pumps your circulatory system. There's no pump for your lymphatic system. It revolves around your movement. You have fascial tension patterns across your entire body that when you go to sleep and you're in the same position for 8 hours, they get tight. Your joints get tight. You have synovial fluid that's supposed to be getting into your joints and circulating things. And most of us are walking around in like
Mhm.
pain.
Mhm.
Like most of us are walking around in pain all
Mhm.
the time. And it's because
Yeah.
we don't move enough.
Yeah, tight muscles, sore joints, absolutely. Poor posture is another one. Um, yeah, and it all comes back
So,
to it's like working out and fitness is such a good important part, but it's really like lifestyle, right? So and that's why I love
mhm.
biohacking because it's really holistic like that and it really really looks at how you're living and what you're doing and how that's impacting your body and your health. Um,
Yeah, for sure. In the end, we're not trying to make the best nutrition routine possible. We're not trying to make the best strength routine possible. We're trying to live the best
mhm.
life we can. And keeping that perspective is very important at all times because that's really that it needs. That's
Yes,
what we're doing.
exactly.
Brittany,
Yeah.
I have a question for you. How have you been eating recently with this new training program you're trying
So
out?
I just finished my first week of the new program. And I haven't really changed how I've been eating, to be honest. Um,
You don't need to. You don't need to
yeah,
change too much.
so I was intermittent fasting for so long, and I kind of stopped doing that in the last 8 months or so for other reasons. Mostly hormonal.
Yeah, I
Um,
I was just looking into well, I was just actually chatting with somebody about intermittent fasting and with females in
mhm,
particular. Like, uh, it, people tend to throw the 12 to 16 hour window
mhm.
out there a lot, but I think a lot of females when they do intermittent fasting should tend to shift more towards that 12-hour window. And 12 hours is not that hard to
No.
do, and it really should. Everyone should be getting 12 hours in a day. All that really means is you don't eat after dinner, and I think it's important to emphasize the not eating after dinner.
Mm,
I think I used to say if you want to have your fasting, if you want to push back breakfast to do your intermittent fasting, that's fine. I'm starting to think that's not fine. Um, I think we need to start paying a little bit more attention to our circadian biology, and there's a reason that we're highly insulinogenic in the morning. We have good insulin responses in the morning. There's a reason that food is a potent zeitgeber that tells our body that it's time to be awake. Uh, Being in a fasted state can increase, you know, for me, if I'm spending too much time in a caloric deficit or uh, like keto for long term and training really hard, if I'm getting blood work, what's going to happen is my sex hormone binding
mhm,
globulin. It sounds all fancy, but that's going to rise and it's going to bind my testosterone, so I have a lower level of free testosterone. And what this is going to make me weaker. For first of all, it's going to make me probably a little bit more depressed, and also it's going to make me not as horny. I mean, frankly, that's really what's going on. And the reason for that, the evolutionary mechanism for that, is because if food is scarce, why should I be
mhm.
having kids? Why would that be evolutionarily in the best interest of the proliferation of our species? And you got to think there are uh, so many of my friends even that are females or males that are trying keto, and if you're female, maybe having some hormonal issues, menstruation issues. If you're male, maybe you're just getting absolutely cut out of your mind and tanking your testosterone, tanking your DHEA, thyroid, and you have no idea. Um, but and you may never know. But it, you're right. There's more to the
Mhm.
story. And intermittent fasting sounds sexy, but like you gotta ask, what are your goals? What are you
Yeah.
really trying to do?
Yeah, I think it's fine if you're doing 12 to 14 hours maximum for a female. Men
Hmm.
can obviously, because their hormones work on a 24-hour cycle, whereas ours work on typically like a 30-day cycle. Men can typically fast for 16 hours, 18 hours, and have
Yeah.
less negative effects. But it's,
I
yeah.
was saying it more so that the time you
Mhm.
use is
Yeah,
than more than the
totally.
hours.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you start eating earlier in the morning around like 7 and you stop eating around 5, 6 p.m., it's like so much better to fast that way, like into the night rather than early into the morning slash like by lunch. And I even see this when I like track my sleep with my Aura ring. So if I have like dinner at 7 and then have another meal, like something small at 9, and then go to sleep at 10, my sleep is definitely affected, and I can literally see it. My HR Yeah, my
Same
HRV
here.
is low.
Oh, it's bad for me. It's
Yeah.
like the biggest thing.
Yeah, my HRV is lower, my heart rate is higher, I have less, I think it is less deep sleep, um, and yeah, you just see it because your body is
Yeah,
literally digesting that food rather than focusing
exactly.
on sleeping.
If you if you look at my aura ring, if I in a night like that, that I'd have a late meal, um, my heart rate would drop to its lowest point
Mm,
sometimes as late as like right before I wake up, which is
yeah,
not good because you got to think like if that's when I'm getting into my
yeah,
deepest stages of sleep, how
yeah.
well was I recovering from my
Yeah,
workout? You know,
exactly. And it's the same with like drinking, right? Like alcohol is so bad every time. It's not so bad, but if you have more than
it
if you have
honestly,
more
yes, it
than
is. Like I'll be the bad guy. I'll say it. Alcohol is not good for you. We gotta
I
stop
think
saying it's like good for longevity. Like social eat drinking. I The new research is starting to make me think that more than a drink a day, male or female, more than drink like 5 days a week is going to
yes,
start to you're going to have
absolutely.
negative health
Yeah, of
effects.
course.
Yeah.
So I typically, if I have a glass of wine or two glasses of wine, I'm fine. In terms of like my sleep metrics and energy for the next day.
Hmm.
Anything more than that, it really will start to take an effect. Anything with like a lot of sugar in it, if it's like a cocktail, yeah, definitely no.
Yeah, I'll even say I've experienced the same thing. I can get away with one drink typically. Two drinks to start to experience effects, regardless of when
Mm,
I time them. But I will say that the effects are much less if I have my two drinks or three drinks, maybe 2 or 3 hours before
mhm.
bedtime, as opposed to like
Yeah,
30 minutes before bedtime.
yeah,
Pushing it forward does make a
yeah,
difference, even with
absolutely.
alcohol.
Yeah, I'm taking a break from alcohol right now, which is hard to do in August because
Didn't you just
yeah,
get
I know I
engaged? What
did.
are you doing? You gotta enjoy
Well,
that.
yeah, we're having an engagement party at the end of the month. So my plan right now is I'm taking a 3-week break before that. And then after that, I'm gonna
Okay.
take a 6-week break from that party until Thanksgiving, and then take a break from Thanksgiving to Christmas. So last
Okay.
year in 2019, not consecutively, but I did 5 months out of 2019, I went alcohol free. Um, like
Wow.
different ones
Wow.
depending on where I was in the year. I think the longest I
Yeah.
went in total was like 70 days. I did 2 months back to back. Um and
Wow.
honestly,
Yeah.
like I
It makes a
felt
big difference.
amazing. And I literally like I not that I have a lot of weight to lose, lost weight without even trying, was definitely more toned, and I like it wasn't changing much else, but it was, yeah, it was great.
I When college kids DM me
Yeah.
and they ask me pretty much anything, I say the number one thing you need to
Uh-huh.
do is stop drinking. Like it's
Yeah.
just true. Like it, if you're binge drinking, you need to stop doing that. If you're drinking a little bit too much, you probably should stop doing that. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're drinking, like you're probably confused
Yeah.
about something.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I'm not perfect
um,
either. So like just so everyone knows, in university and even still, well, not university, I was bad. I used to party 4 nights a week, and
that's
like,
so funny. It's hard to
yeah,
picture.
but I never like blacked out, but I would drink my face off for sure. Um, but never did any other drugs, like never really dabbled in anything at that time. But now I'm a lot better. Like, but still, like summer, like last weekend, I was on a boat the whole day and I drank probably 8 drinks in a day. Like it's,
Oh
it's
wow. Okay.
just, yeah.
Do you have any strategies that you use when you drink
Yes.
like that?
So if you are going to be drinking in excess, and obviously you're overage, because I think I have to say that on this podcast. Not that I started drinking overage. Anyway. Yeah, so definitely pick your alcohol wisely. So when I drink in excess, which doesn't happen very often, I will pick things
Yeah.
like nudes, or I don't know what the ones are in the States, but like, yeah, they're
You said
called nudes or
nudes?
neutrals here. So it's basically like soda
Uh,
water, flavor, and vodka, or
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. The vodka is the
Yeah.
key. The vodka
Yeah.
drinks are way better than the
Yes,
hard
or like the
seltzers.
gin. I usually get the gin ones, but anything with no sugar in it, per can, it's like 100 calories, whatever it is. And they're flavored. And because they're carbonated, I actually take a lot longer to drink them than I do for like Hey Y'alls or anything that's like iced tea. And, you know,
I don't
yeah,
know
they're
any of these
Canadian.
names.
So, do you have like
Okay.
an
Hey,
iced
y'alls.
tea with like alcohol in it in a can?
Yeah,
Twisted
twisted
tea.
teas, but they're like
Yeah.
really like they're
Yeah.
they're sugary. They're yeah. You want to stick to vodka, ideally. For us down here, honestly, if of all the alcohols that I've had in my entire life, if I had to pick one that I have the least amount of reaction to, it would just be a cold like glass of Tito's vodka. And not that I just drink cold vodka. You can obviously put it in seltzer water, make
Yeah.
some lime or whatever, make a nice little drink. But if you want to drink, stick to things like that. Gin's
Mhm.
also a great option. And as far as supplementation goes, a great strategy. I think the best strategy. If you were to go balls to the wall and try to like, I'm gonna drink and I do not want to have a hangover at all. No, money's not an object. Would be taking something like uh,
Mhm.
N-acetylcysteine, alpha lipoic acid, and
Mhm.
glutathione, maybe like 2 hours before drinking, just to really, really
Yeah.
like give the liver everything it needs to detoxify everything and kind of get ahead of that acetaldehyde buildup. And then while you're drinking, take some activated charcoal. Make sure that you are drinking a ton of water throughout the entire night. The entire like make sure every other drink have some water. Um, and just try to stop drinking an hour or two before bed. And if you remember, again, take some more activated charcoal before bed. And the next morning, wake up and take that liver stack again. And I really like when I drink, and it's typically me going crazy is like 4 drinks, and it's like every now and then. Like it's not because I'm above drinking; it's because I have Lyme disease, or I've been dealing with the chronic disease, and
Mhm.
at this point, it's just I've spent too much time feeling shitty, and I don't
Yeah.
like feeling bad, and uh, but I'll do that every single time I drink, and I don't get hungover. I feel
Yeah.
fine when I drink. If anything, it's a little bit
Yeah.
of a brain fog the next day.
That's
But
literally the exact, like, stack that I use is, N-acetylcysteine, like, NAC, what I call it, is the short form of it.
mhm.
Yeah, I'll take a few of those throughout the night, before I drink, after I drink, before I go to bed, activated charcoal, exactly
So
that. Yeah. Mhm.
that's awesome. NAC is a
Mhm.
glutathione precursor. It does a couple
Mhm.
other things, but glutathione, if you have like a
Yeah.
liposomal glutathione, if you can get that somewhere, it's like a oral paste you put in your
Yeah.
mouth.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
And yeah, for everyone listening, like basically these supplements help break down the alcohol faster in your body and metabolize it faster. So that's why it helps with hangovers, is because it basically just flushes it out and boosts your system in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, it, I mean, everybody knows alcohol breaks down into poison,
Hmm.
acetaldehyde, and uh, it's not good. So you don't want that. Any kind of stressor like that is just one more thing you're adding to the equation. If you're not getting consistent
Hmm.
sleep, and not having don't have the dietary stuff dialed in, you're not training, you have the sedentary lifestyle, and then you're throwing in the drinking on top of that. It's just too
Yeah.
much. And you having everything else, so dialed in. I mean, obviously nobody's perfect, and you have your own health issues, but for the most part, you're doing things, you're doing the right things. Uh, you can get away with drinking every now and then, and maybe everything in moderation, including
Yeah.
moderation, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. Like I definitely think there's something to be said about um going out with friends and having a drink on a patio, like, and being cautious of it. Like, I think it's fine, like we said, like 2 or 3 a week in total, you know?
Hmm.
Um, and that's it. I think we get into the issues when it's binging, when it's a lot, when you're doing that Friday night, Saturday night every single week. And that's what I had to deal with last year, was when I first started moving away from alcohol. I had to break the habit of every Friday night having a drink that I had been doing for years, whether it was one glass of wine or whether it was going out to a bar or going to a party or whatever. And that, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard.
It's weird. Those little
It's hard to break
things.
it, even as a biohacker, as a nutritionist, as somebody who is like very like woke in this field.
When you start to realize that your body doesn't consider the weekends its
Yeah.
off days, and
Yeah.
every day is the same to
Yeah.
your body, and you're like, ah,
Yeah.
I there was a time that when I was sick, like because I was sophomore year of college when I had my seizure, I
Mm.
was kind of just thrust out of the college environment. I was having a good time. When I first got to college, I joined a fraternity my first semester. I had no idea what I was. Well, I was a finance major. I wanted to be an investment banker. I mean, I guess, but I not really. Uh, and when I had the seizure, that's when I really was like, oh, I probably should start taking life a little bit more
Yeah.
seriously. It's not, I could die tomorrow, and uh, that's when I started to get into these things. And there was a time I felt like I was missing out on the college experience,
Mm.
and that I should be out there partying with my friends, and that I'm missing out. But these were the cards that I was dealt, and you know, I, I'm going to play them to the best of my ability, and that's just the way I have to see it. And if that means that maybe I miss out on the last 2 years of college, I learned it's probably 6 months of like this was part of the reason that some of this was so depressing because of the fact that it was kind of messing with my narrative of how my life should have
Mm.
gone,
Yeah.
and uh, and that facilitated the strength training and all that. But it, eventually, I just embraced that in the end, what really matters is how we feel in this moment. And doing things that are going to make me feel healthier in this moment is the best investment I can possibly be doing with my
Yeah.
time. So, I was totally okay with taking that sacrifice and embracing that weirdness for the rest of my college to be able to have this conversation with
Mhm.
you today, and I think for anyone looking to take a shift in their health and make a transition in their life, getting rid of the alcohol is a
Yeah.
great place to start.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think that you don't have to be very hard on yourself and strict about it. I think like even just starting with a few weeks away from it and seeing how you feel um, is a great place to start. And something that I struggled with last year when I was first like really moving away from it was I was talking to some doctor online. I forget who it was, but I was saying I was like I understand how bad alcohol is now, and now if I drink, I feel bad about it, and I don't know how to like mitigate this and have it be a part of a healthy lifestyle. And he basically said to me, he's like, do you think you can cut out alcohol for the rest of your life? And I was like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, okay, so learn how to have it in moderation and learn how to respect it and not abuse it or not overdrink. Because it's too much to expect perfection of yourself. Like, oh, I'm never going to do this again. Like that's so much pressure and it just creates stress, right?
Yeah. So that's something that I tend to do that. I tend to think of things in a very black and white way,
Mm,
and it's one of my weaknesses, I'd say. And I've had someone who I look up to very much tell me that instead of thinking all or
hmm
nothing with
hmm
things like that, uh, like I said, don't set hard limits with yourself. All right, don't box yourself in with rules or self kind of constructs, beliefs, whatever you want to call them, that make things harder for you. But develop and work on cultivating a sense of internal self trust. So he says your self trust index. Right, these are not my words. I can't take credit for them. Your self trust index. Uh, you, it confidence is kind of a facade. This is similar to confidence, but this is not confidence. This is real. This is you put yourself in difficult situations. You deal with adversity time and time again, and you prevail. And eventually, you start to just trust that you're going to be able to deal with it. And this only happens by getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, pushing the boundaries of your comfort zone, and doing things that are going to be beneficial for your
hmm
growth consistently. And then if you keep kind of grinding that edge, uh, doing being confident in your ability to have alcohol in moderation is going to seem
Yeah.
easy, you know? It's that self-trust
Yeah.
index that matters.
Yeah, and I think like with binging in general, whether it's like food or some sort of unhealthy habit or alcohol or something else, I think something that
Mhm.
I was thinking about a lot was, why am I doing it in the first place? And what am I compensating for that I might feel like lack of in other places in my life? So like, why do I feel the need to like drink so much and get drunk and like feel happier or loose or like, whatever the feeling is that I'm going after, like what
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
actually going on like deep down that I am not addressing. And it's exact same with food, is like when we find comfort in these substances, there's something deeper going on that we haven't yet come to terms with.
Yeah, being able to just chill and just be calm with the way things in your mind are set up. Like I know it's not, it would be awesome, and it's an unachievable goal. I think, because we're humans, and we need something to do, or else life would
Mhm.
be pretty boring. And we have these systems in check that make things attractive to us, like food, and that make things that taking the easy way and those instant gratification, those quick dopamine hits. We're gonna do them. We're
Yeah.
never not gonna be seeking these rewarding behaviors. It's just, uh, you have to say like. It, you can override those primitive kind of neural pathways. You have the ability to do that, and it just takes
Mhm.
practice.
Mhm.
Like, it, I'm sure you've heard of the reptilian brain and the mammalian brain. So like the outer part of our brain is cortex, and that's like executive function, kind of higher level thinking, and then the inner part of our brain. This is oversimplifying, but the inner part of our brain is our reptilian brain, kind of the more inward looking processes, uh, and kind of feedback loops. And the thing about humans is that we can override these feedback loops. You can get angry and you can not yell at somebody, and you can also get a craving and not eat. And when you get a craving and not eat, and yes, it's a hard thing, and discipline is a muscle for sure that gets easier when you train it. But when you get a craving, you don't eat. It gives you the chance to say, why did I get that
Mhm.
craving? And it gives you a chance for further inquiry into self. You get to explore. You say, maybe I have some sort of bacterial imbalance, and that's a whole other question, whole other route you could go down that you
Yeah.
otherwise couldn't. So it really does start with that initial. You just gotta be willing to take that first step and take responsibility
Yeah.
for your health.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that in general, right? Like with the wellness
Hmm.
movement and with the biohacking movement, is this like idea that the only person who actually cares about my health is me. And I'm the only person who cares the most. And it doesn't matter what doctor you have, what practitioner you have, you will always care the most about your own health. And I think a lot of people don't understand that and don't realize that, because then you actually have to do something about it. Right.
Hmm. And it's that what you just said is
Mhm.
the key, and it's that they're not willing to accept, that people aren't willing to accept. And you, what I say to them, or what I say to people when they say that's not true, other people care, doctors has my best interest at heart, I'm like, yes, your doctor does, but I want you, like, think about how much of your time you spend thinking about. Well, you're a coach. That's not a great example. You spend thinking about someone else who doesn't pay you's how they're doing health
Mhm.
wise. It's such a small
Mhm.
fraction of, like, it might as well not even be existent. It's not even worth mentioning. Like, and that's the same that everyone else thinks about you. No one cares. You don't. There's no need to have this grandiose view that other people are thinking about you. And uh, when you realize that, look, this is your experience, this is your life, and it's time to own it. Uh, you're forced to make a decision. Do I want to be healthy,
Mhm.
or do I not
Yeah.
care if I'm healthy? And that's the
Yeah.
decision that you have to make.
What would you say is your number one motivation for maintaining optimal health?
I think it's that I know what I want out of my life, and uh, I got really clear. I got really clear on what it is I think is going on, what I think life means to me, what I think my life means to me, what I want my purpose of my life to be to me, and I define that for myself. And now that I know that, now that every decision I make, it's real simple. Is this helping me achieve that? And if the answer is yes, I do it. And if it's not, I don't. And turns out being healthy and feeling as good as I possibly can makes doing what I want and getting what I want out of life so much easier. So that's why I do it. It's a no-brainer to me at this
Wow,
point.
that's so introspective. I think I need to do something like that and look at why or how I define life and what I want out of life. And yeah,
Yeah, it great process. Pick your own words. Take your time with it, and I think that's by far the most beneficial thing that everyone can do.
do you
Period.
mind
I think.
sharing like what
Wow.
your insights were in a nutshell? You
Um.
don't have to like go deep.
Yeah. I'll. So it doesn't really matter. I will share. I'll share, but like I said, I don't think that there's an overarching meaning to life, right? But I think that I'm assigning this artificial meaning to my life, so it means
Hmm.
something to me, and uh, when you're doing your own, it should mean something to you, and the words should mean something to you. But uh, yeah, I want to experience the fullness of this existence, embody optimal health, and inspire others to do the same. Really simple,
Well,
but uh, you know that's
yeah.
it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I feel like mine would be very similar of yeah, just wanting to lead others down a similar path in order to be healthy and actually healthy in multiple ways, not trendy healthy that it's like salads every day and chronic cardio like type of idea, like actually healthy. Um, yeah, and I think that's awesome, and I think I'm really happy that you have gone through such a impressive health journey and turned your life around, and you're building this business now that is really aiming to help people do the same.
I really appreciate
Yeah.
that,
So
Brittany.
do you want
Thank
to,
you.
before we wrap up, like just explain what you do with clients and where people can find you and all sorts of things like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I am a personal trainer and I'm a holistic health coach, and I have a variety of online programs. So I make most of my content on my Instagram at John Woerner Fitness. So John and Warner spelled Woerner Fitness. And that's also my TikTok name, John Woerner Fitness. I make a lot of stuff on there as well. But recently I started this Swolistic Living podcast. And what I'm doing with the Swolistic Living podcast is I'm trying to blend bodybuilding and the aesthetic side of fitness with biohacking, holistic health, and human optimization as a whole so that you can attain and maintain the physique of your dreams and show up as your best self in all aspects of your life. That's the mission statement of Swolistic Living. And my podcast, I have guests like Brittany on. Brittany talked her top 3 of biohacks. It was a great episode. And other guests like Dr. Sean Baker. I'll have Renee of the Biohacker Babes podcast that I'll be interviewing after this. And we talk about uh, great, strategies that you can implement into your life today that make it, a drastic impact in your health. So yeah,
That's all.
Instagram is where you should find me though. DM me at John Woerner Fitness. I love talking to you guys.
Well,
And
that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm so happy that we got to do this and connect and really just dive deep into some topics.
yeah,
Yeah,
this
I
was
will
awesome.
definitely put all of your links in the show notes for everybody, and definitely like DM him, John. He knows a lot about fitness and biohacking, and I've learned a lot. So
Thank
I
you
feel
so much,
like
Brittany.
everyone could learn a lot. Yeah, and thank you so much for coming on.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, feel free to screenshot this episode and tag me if you'd like me to respond. I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you have a question about your health, my DMs are always open and I'm currently taking new clients. Thanks and see you next time.